These Kickstarters are the bee's knees. Let us know what you think for this Kickstarter Pickstarter for the week of May 4th, 2020. Sea of Legends is our first pick. This is a heavy narrative pirate game that takes place in the Caribbean, where you will play as a captain of a pirate ship and you will be choosing your own adventures using an app as well as pieces on the board to decide the fate of the Caribbean world. This is competitive, however, there are going to be NPC factions, so you may have to work together begrudgingly in order to make sure that the NPC factions don't actually take the win. You'll be, of course, choosing as captain. You can go to different ports, you can fight, you can get different crew members for your ship. You'll also have a lover and a rival. These cards are actually double-sided, so your rival maybe becomes your lover or vice versa. This is a heavy story narrative game that actually uses an app, so you actually select which captain you are, where you are, which could change the way things up, and it also means there's going to be a lot more branching, interesting story styles. Always a big fan of narrative games. I love the fact the app's being included because that can allow for a lot more interesting things instead of shuffling through a deck of cards that are the story card deck or something like that. The lover and rival thing too, very interesting.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
I think it makes sense. Both of them are very high emotional states, so
there's a fine line between love and hate. Yeah, I think the look and feel of this game looks really cool. Maybe the biggest mark against this game, or maybe its biggest competitor, is Forgotten Waters from Plaid Hat. I feel like they're both definitely a similar genre. They both have like heavy app use. So I wonder if they'll stand apart enough for people to want one or the other.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you got to compare the two, but I will say at the very least, like, this game looks interesting. I like the fact that the factions can win, so they're not just an obstacle for one player to reach the win. There are something that, like, sort of like Legendary. You can fight each other, but you have to remember you could all lose.
Yeah, I like that.
And it seems that the factions, from what I can tell, also have rivals and lovers with them. So there could be something like you actually can choose factions and make connections that way, which I think is also a great experience, because if you played any sort of heavy video game like the Fallout series, those heavy story games, usually you can make deals with factions and make connections with them, which help make the game feel a bit more lived instead of just being a generic NPC. There's something you can interact with.
Yeah.
Now, this is a game that has, of course, minis and expansions. Right now, you can get it for $90. There's more, but they did want to make sure you understood that this is mostly a Kickstarter exclusive. Once this Kickstarter is done, you can only really buy it from their own site or what they have at conventions. So if you wanted to hit the 7 Cs, you may want to back this now.
Crisis at Steamfall from BD Games is one that was on Kickstarter a couple of years back, and now they are at it again with a new expansion called Genesis. This is a steampunk-themed game in which you'll be traveling around to different locations, building items, exploring, taking on quests, and the Genesis expansion adds some pretty cool new twists to the mix. Some of those are narrative-focused, so this one has a much more heavy emphasis on the storytelling aspect. You're going to have a journal deck, and looking at those journal cards, you'll have specific personal objectives that you want to try to achieve, and by accomplishing those objectives, you will receive new skills for your character. And what's especially interesting about those skills is they determine your actions for the game. So you have multiple action slots, and let's say you put both an explore and a craft item skill in the same slot, then when you activate that action, you'll get to do both of those things. So every player is going to have their own unique character, and as the game goes on, they will develop in very unique branching ways. There's also ways that you can create your own items. There are adjective cards, so those will affect the item that you make, so there's a lot of different combinations that are possible. Every game you might not have the same type of tool. It might have the same base components, but now with a new little wrinkle on it. And I really enjoyed hearing about all of those things. I think it sounds like a great game, having not played the original Crisis at Steamfall. Really, I've never heard of it until I saw this. That one totally has been off my radar somehow. But it sounds like people enjoyed the original. It had positive reception. And I think the steampunk theme is one that still has room to grow in the board game industry. Maybe you're not a fan of it personally, but I feel like I haven't seen it too much in the board game world.
It's borderline for me, partially because it's usually paired up with Cthulhu, because that's sort of past. But this one sounds really cool. I love the whole customization aspect. I think that's a lot of fun. It also helps when you're playing the game, whether you win or lose, you sort of feel cool when you make something. I love the items because I saw that like one was like I think an overclock stimulant, which it doesn't make sense, but it's
Yeah,
hilarious.
one of them is chocolate filled, I think. Yeah, it gets a little wacky. So take a look for the expansion Genesis. You can only pay $27 to get that. And if you want to get the original game too, if you missed out on that, you can check out the different pledge levels for bundles or for add-ons.
From AV Studio Games, we have Pulp Invasion. This game is about fending off an alien invasion in this solo or two-player variant if you get the expansion. The game is based heavily on the art, if you can't tell, of old Pulp Fiction novels, so you got your classic space invaders and stuff, and you'll be playing as one of these captains trying to find their ancient artifacts on these planets. You'll have to kill off these aliens that are guarding it in order to hopefully find these super weapons to fend off the main aliens. But this game looked like a simple. I like the solo playing aspect, and in particular, it's only $19, so very cheap for just a fun solo game. And that Pulp Fiction style is something very cute that I like. The expansion that they have is what adds the two-player variant, but still, $19 for a solo game right now seems pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. And it's sort of appropriate for, usually you think of like the cheap pulp novels, kind of classic paperbacks on a shelf. So it's nice to have that. Yeah, it's an art style and a theme that I also really enjoy whenever it's used. And if it's like a detective style or like this, more in the sci-fi realm, I think it's always fun to see. Blinks is back. The Blinks game system from Move 38. This is a very unique game system that we got the chance to try in person at last year's PAX Unplugged, and now is your chance to try to get your hands on a copy with some brand new games. Basically, there are a whole bunch of hexagons that are plastic, but inside they have technology that allows them to turn on and off, light up in different colors, and even learn different games and communicate with the other blinks, they call them, that they are connected to. There are a lot of fascinating abstract games that are possible with this system. Some of them are solo, some of them are multiplayer, some of them are more puzzle based, some of them are more like dexterity games. And what they're doing now with this Kickstarter is 6 brand new games from their community of game designers that they've been working with for a long time. And they have picked 6 of the ones that different designers have come up with that they think are the best that they have to offer right now. One of the new games is called Dark Ball, and it's kind of like Pong or ping pong or tennis, where there's a light representing a ball moving back and forth between players, and you have to actually press to throw it back to your opponent at the right time. But because there could be loops in the pattern, it's not always going to go back and forth. It's going to randomly maybe go in circles or travel a different way or back to you more than once in a row. There's one where you have to maintain a pirate ship, but lasers are coming at you and you have to stop the lasers from destroying your ship. They're all, abstract games, but the way that they have managed to work in these themes and these different styles of gameplay, I think is really cool. We both got to try this, and I think we were both pretty impressed by it when we demoed it.
It is a really clever and fun idea. I love like playing a lot of those games. Especially there are some that can be more dexterity, some that aren't. And it's really clever the way they can sort of communicate with each other. I think that's what they called it. Like
Yeah.
they can sort of temporarily learn a game. So this is the kind of thing where you much easily can be like, oh, I'll buy this starter set of 5 games or whatever, or blinks. And then, later on you hear of like Dark Ball and you're like, oh, I want to get that game. You get one Dark Ball blink, and however they decide to sell it though. But it is a really cool, fun idea and the one nice thing is if you do get all those expansions, you'll still take a lot less space than many of the games behind me when you get all the expansions.
That is true. Well, how they're selling it through this Kickstarter is in packs of 6 games. So one of those could be only the new ones, or you could mix and match. You could get some of the original sets. You could get, I think there's 3 different ones that you could choose to buy, plus accessories and all kinds of stuff like that. The one set of 6 blinks with 6 games goes for $94, which is a lot, but there's a lot of tech going into this. And there are a couple like special Kickstarter offers that may or may not be available when you look at the page. So take a look and see which one you decide to back.
This last Kickstarter, we're going to visit one of the earliest superheroes. I'm not talking about Captain America or Superman. I'm talking about the Phantom. The Phantom card game is a solo player game when you take on the role of the Phantom or one of his sidekicks, Devil or Diana. This is a heavy story-based game where there are 3 scenarios, and you will play through them with a deck of cards. Each one revolves around different characters, such as the one playing as Diana through her joining the Jungle Patrol, and one playing with Devil, his wolf companion. Of course, the final one, which is much larger, which actually has branching storylines, you play as the Phantom himself. It's titled Year One. This game is based heavily on the Phantom artwork. In fact, it looks like all the art is from panels in the comic, so it's not like redone artwork in modern day like art style. It looks like those old school Phantom comics. And I thought it looked really cool. I like this narrative style idea where you just pretty much, it plays it. First thing came to mind was a bit more like Legendary Encounters, and you're gonna play through how the story went in the movie. In this case, the comics. And card game superheroes, the Phantom is definitely one that has not had as much time to shine in pop culture, partially because I think his movie came out before we had the big superhero craze.
I remember because my dad is a big comic book fan from back in the day, and he took me to see the Phantom movie when it came out. And yeah, at that time it was like, I didn't know what the Phantom was. I still don't really know. And it was such a very different world before superhero movies were normal.
But this still looks really cool. Once again, I got another solo game for you there. And since it goes through its story, it doesn't seem to be something that you have to feel like you need to know who the Phantom is. You'll sort of be walked through it. You'll learn about his main sort of sidekicks and stuff, and then get to go through a much bigger story with him. The base game goes for $30. There's also a deluxe version too, which is a bit more. So if you're interested in a solo game and you still want some superhero action but are tired of DC and Marvel, this is definitely one to take a look at.
Those were our picks this week, but they weren't the only games on Kickstarter. I know there's a new edition of Island Siege on there from Ape Games, among others. So we'd like to hear from you. Were you backing any of the ones that we talked about, or is there something that we missed? You can let us know in the comments section down below, as always.
And of course, thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you're all staying safe. And don't forget to do all the other fun stuff if you want to see more videos. We also post on our not only our Discord for our patrons, but also on Twitter. And I think we posted on the YouTube channel, but our streaming schedules, we usually stream on Mondays, Fridays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. We're not streaming this Wednesday. So if you're watching this now, there won't be a stream afterwards. But you can let us know what you want to watch us play and what RPGs we should play. But once again, thanks for watching. I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Roll for Crit. Catch the latest from Roll for Crit by liking and subscribing. And don't forget to support us on Patreon.
Don't get analysis paralysis. Just click those buttons. Help us out.